Welcome to our Facebook Live on Bhakti Yoga Online. The topic for this week is how to obtain satisfaction of the mind. And this is actually something that many people are desiring so much and hankering after, but it seems so difficult to really achieve. So what we will do now, we will check out what is written about this in the ancient yoga textbooks like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which are the source of timeless wisdom. And I will start with a text from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17 and text 16. This is very interesting verse, and it goes like this. And satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So I will also read the purport, because it has some very deep and very practical wisdom for our everyday life. To make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of doing good to others. The best training for the mind is gravity in thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. To purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense gratification. I will read it again. Please listen. Satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification, and so there is no possibility of the mind's becoming satisfied. The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Purāṇas and the Mahābhārata. One can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. So I will stop here, and I just want to invoke auspiciousness by reciting some mantras for the glorification of the spiritual teachers. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I'm offering my respectful obeisances to my spiritual teacher who has opened my eyes, which have been blinded by the darkness of nations, of ignorance. So there was one sentence in this purport that was really striking, and I read it 2 times. So it read that satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. Isn't this amazing? Something really amazing? Because actually, if we just consider our reasoning, when we try to become happy, when we try to get some kind of pleasure and some kind of satisfaction, what do? We start to think about, the things that we hope will bring us satisfaction, that will bring us enjoyment. But here in this book, Bhagavad Gita as it is, we can read that this is the very source of the dissatisfaction of the mind. So how can this be? How can this be? It seems like just contrary to everything that we ever learned in this world. How is this possible? So let me explain you a little deeper. Why is this so? This is so because when we are trying to be happy in this world, when we are trying to obtain some satisfaction and enjoyment, we are actually doing one fatal mistake. Like really the biggest mistake. And what is the biggest mistake? The biggest mistake is that we think that we are this body and we think that we are this mind. So we are trying to please ourselves. We are trying to give ourselves some pleasure and satisfaction by gratifying this material body and the material mind and the material senses. But actually, this just brings the opposite. This only brings dissatisfaction. And how is this so? I would like to share a little more from these ancient yoga textbooks, this ancient literature. And here is actually one other text from Bhagavad Gita, which actually gives more insight. What is really that kind of happiness or pleasure that is a true pleasure, true happiness? And this is text Bhagavad Gita 6:21. Hello, 6:21, and it reads like this. In the spiritually joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness and enjoys himself through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from truth. And then more in the purport, in the commentary, one actually has to perceive happiness by the super senses. Have you ever heard this? Super senses? What is this? So this is actually explained that the senses that we have here that are connected with our physical body, senses of the physical body and the mind are material senses. If we just try to satisfy and please these material senses, then we will only gain dissatisfaction. But the real pleasure that we actually are wanting to experience can be experienced by the super senses. And what are the super senses? The super senses are actually the spiritual senses. They are our real senses because we are actually not material beings. We are spiritual beings and we have spiritual senses. So this is the Bhagavad Gita and other yoga textbooks. They don't say that we cannot be happy, that we cannot have any satisfaction, that we cannot have any sense pleasure. No, they are just trying to teach us that the way we are trying to gain happiness and satisfaction and gratification in this world is wrong. Because we only try to satisfy these material senses. This material, Namapriya Hare Krishna, this material mind, material intelligence. And in this way, we don't gain any satisfaction. But there is a catch. So although we can become happy and we can become satisfied when we satisfy the super senses or the spiritual senses, one problem here is that we have difficulty achieving this in the present state of our being. Because in the present state of our being, our consciousness is covered over, and also our spiritual senses are covered over with material coverings. So from the spiritual point of view, we are in an unclean state. And to really be able to engage fully with our spiritual senses, we need to do some purification of these senses. So the whole point of yoga is actually that we work on purifying these spiritual senses. And once we achieve this, then we can enjoy such pleasure and such gratification and such happiness that material pleasure, material gratification cannot even compare to it. It's like a tiny drop in comparison to the great ocean of pleasure that we can enjoy with the spiritual senses. So, but now I would like to go back to our initial topic, because our initial topic is how can we obtain the satisfaction of the mind. So the formula that is given to us in this particular verse that we are reading just now in Bhagavad Gita, this is text 17 in chapter 17, is we have to take the mind away from the thoughts of sense gratification in the material world. So this is something very practical. Why? Because we can see, we can catch ourselves and we can see other people. Everybody, practically everybody nowadays is enslaved with the mobile phones and with everything with what you find there on the mobile phone, right? Internet, YouTube, and all kinds of videos are there, like nice, interesting, promising sense gratification, right? And just one after another, just immediately when you watch one, there's so many other options coming up and showing you. And YouTube is artificial intelligence, actually. It's a program, computer program that understands what you like. So if you watch one video, then the YouTube understands, this is what you like. So then it offers you more of this kind. And in this way, it entangles you more and more and more. And in this way, also material nature is acting in exactly the same way. I just gave I gave this example of YouTube, how YouTube is, once you look at something, you look at one video, YouTube understands, okay, this is what you like. Okay, so you want more, here, here's more. And the material nature is the same. Once you try, doing something, enjoying something, then it will offer you more of this. But the problem is that this does not give the real satisfaction, it does not give the real pleasure, and it just makes you miserable at the end. And the mind becomes very, very dissatisfied. It's actually just the opposite. The more we think and contemplate about sense gratification, about sense enjoyment, how we will enjoy anything in this world, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. I know it's very difficult to understand it. It's very, very difficult to comprehend this, but this is the truth. So if we can even theoretically accept this, then we can make another step in the right direction. And what is the right direction? Here we can see in this verse, in this purport, it is stated that there are two steps that we can do. And first is that we take the mind away after we take the mind away from these thoughts of sense enjoyment, that we bring the mind into reading the transcendental literature, spiritual literature. And there is one special text that I want to share with you. Tatvat visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abhadavatyapi namanyanantasya yatonkitani yat shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadava. And this verse actually is from Srimad Bhagavatam. It's from the first canto, 5th chapter, text 11. This verse describes that this literature, the spiritual literature, is completely different. It's something completely different, like from material books, from material videos or films. This literature is full of descriptions of the name, form, qualities, activities, and pastimes of the Supreme Person. And these transcendental words in this literature have the potency to create revolution in the minds of the people of this misdirected civilization. Isn't this amazing? Misdirected civilization. Our civilization at present is misdirected. Why it is misdirected? It is misdirected because everybody thinks that he can become happy by gratifying this body and material mind. And this is wrong. And further in this verse it is stated that such literature may be even imperfectly composed, but it is accepted, it is heard, and it is read by people who are purified and thoroughly honest. So such people, they actually really accept this literature, who have a little bit of purification of the heart and who are honest, who actually really want the right thing. They want the right thing. They want the truth. They want the real happiness. They want the real satisfaction. Such people are attracted to this literature. So what this literature is, it's I was reading in this commentary, in this purport, it said that this is the ancient Vedas. And there are so many wonderful stories in the Purāṇas. Like Srimad Bhagavatam has amazing stories, and Mahābhārata has amazing stories, and Ramayana, such drama, and so many valuable life lessons that we can learn from them, and at the same time be entertained. There is so much entertainment for the mind. There is so much stimulation for the mind. This is what we are looking for. And we can get it from this literature. And at the same time, when we read this literature, then the mind and the intelligence become purified from material coverings. And what are these material coverings? These material coverings are the layers of the invisible forces of material energy called the gunas, material gunas. And these are actually like ropes which keep us bound up in the material existence, in perpetual dissatisfaction and misery. So when we read this literature, just by reading, just by sitting down, just by honestly accepting this transcendental sound vibration into our heart, into our mind, we become purified. It is actually explained that one who is just hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam can attain complete self-realization just by hearing. You don't need to do any like special severe austerities. No, you just sit down and hear. The lower modes of passion and ignorance, they go away, they are washed away, and one achieves the goodness, and then even transcendental goodness, the spiritual level, the Vishuddha Sattva, which is the state, the transcendental state, in which our spiritual senses become really awakened, and then we enjoy in spiritual satisfaction, in spiritual sense gratification, spiritual sense gratification, and enjoy spiritual happiness. And let me read to you. I actually did read, yes. So when we achieve this, we can enjoy this spiritually joyous state, which is boundless transcendental happiness, enjoyed through transcendental senses, these super senses or spiritual senses. And this is also, I would like to say, just tell you just a little bit of one wonderful story from Srimad Bhagavatam, which also teaches us about this particular point, that there is no end to, to desiring material gratification, because once you have one desire, it can never be satisfied, because you will never be satisfied. Even if you obtain what you desire, you will be unfulfilled, because you can only be fulfilled when your spiritual senses are satisfied. So the story is the story from Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Vamanadev, who appeared like a small boy, like very beautiful, Brahminical boy. And he came to a great king of the demons, Bali, King Bali. And he just requested him to give him some alms, to give him some donation. Because the Brahmanas, they have the right to ask for donations. And Bali, King Bali, he was he was really willing to give. He was very magnanimous. He was willing to give anything that such Brahmanas would request him. So he said, yes, ask whatever you want, I will give you. At that time, Bali was the ruler of the entire universe. So he could give him entire planet. But the little boy, Vamana, he said, no, I don't need anything, big. I just need that much land as I can reach with my 3 steps. So, little boy, little steps, little land. So this is what King Bali thought. And Lord Vamana Dev was also very, very philosophical. And he actually said that, very interesting thing, he said that one actually has to be satisfied by whatever comes to him naturally, by his destiny. One just has to be peaceful and satisfied with this, because if he cannot be satisfied with this, then he cannot be satisfied even if he obtains the 3 worlds. The 3 worlds meaning here the lower planets, the middle planets, and the higher planets, the heavenly planets. So one has to just be satisfied with whatever little one can get, just like in the natural way, as far as material things. This was one of the teachings of the Lord Vamanadev. And so the main point here is that as long as we are trying to endeavor to obtain our pleasure, satisfaction, and happiness from material things, we will always be frustrated and dissatisfied. But we need to just be satisfied in whatever condition we are right now. However much material facility we have right now, that is okay. It is given to us. It has been given to us by our destiny, by our karma. We just accept it gratefully, with gratitude. but at the same time, we can work to obtain spiritual happiness. And spiritual happiness is that real happiness that really satisfies the mind and the heart and the soul. So, one step to obtain this happiness is by really putting our mind in reading and hearing the transcendental literature like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And this needs to be done regularly, not just like once upon a time, once a month or... No, if we want regular satisfaction of the mind, we need to do it every day. It has to become our lifestyle every single day. Reading, and it is recommended by our spiritual teachers that we read for at least 1 hour a day. We find time. Maybe not like we don't have time to read 1 hour in one setting, but we can do, 10 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes later, and then before going to sleep, half an hour, and it adds up to 1 hour. And then we can see that our mind is completely different, and the real satisfaction starts coming into our mind. Of course, the more we do, the more satisfaction we get. So it is worthwhile. This is your best investment. I'm challenging you right now. Do it. You want to become happy. You want to get the satisfaction of the mind. Do this investment. Invest in your spiritual satisfaction. And then the second step, which is also as important as the first is, and this is explained in the commentary. It is actually explained that one should always be thinking of doing good to others. This is very important point. Extremely important point. And I can go a little deeper into this also. What does this mean? Thinking good to others. How we can do good to others. This actually means a service attitude. That we are trying to serve others. That when we see a person, somebody that we know, somebody who is close to us, maybe our husband, maybe our friend, maybe our parents, maybe our children, whoever is in our circle, when we see this person, when we think about how we can serve this person, what we can do for this person, this is actually the right attitude, the right way that brings about the satisfaction of the mind. Because service attitude is actually the manifestation of love. In the spiritual world, there is the rule of love. Everything is centered around love. And therefore, everything is based on the service attitude there. Everybody is serving others. Of course, there is one central person that everybody is serving, and this is the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, who is the real enjoyer. And when he is satisfied, then everybody else is satisfied. But this service attitude is very, very important, because normally in the material world, in the materialistic culture, we are kind of, when we come in touch with another person, we may think, how can I exploit this person for my satisfaction, for my gratification? And then we gain just the contrary result. Then we get misery, then we get dissatisfaction. But when we are thinking of how to do good for others, when we try to serve others to the best of our ability, the mind becomes satisfied, and also the relationships with others become much, much better. This is actually the way to spiritualize our relationships. Bring this spiritual factor of selfless love, in our relationships. So I will stop here. Just again, I will just recap just very shortly. The main topic today was how to obtain the satisfaction of the mind. And first we exposed one sentence which says that to obtain the satisfaction of the mind, we have to take the mind away from thoughts of sense enjoyment. So then I was exploring on this, how actually we in this world, we are just the opposite. We are contemplating sense enjoyment all the time, and then we just get the dissatisfaction. And how actually our real pleasure, our real sense enjoyment comes from satisfying the super senses, the spiritual senses. And this actually gives endless happiness, spiritual bliss. But of course, to achieve that, there is needed some purification. And this purification of the mind, of the heart, of the intelligence really starts when we give our attention to the spiritual sound of the transcendental literature. When we really start to hear sincerely and regularly, day after day. This brings the satisfaction of the mind, brings the purification of the heart, and brings happiness. And the second point was how to obtain the satisfaction of the mind by thinking of how to do good to others, how to serve others. So I'll stop here. And I see there are some listeners. If you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, please, you can just write them right now, and we can have some discussion. Maybe you have some doubts, some challenges, and we can go still a little deeper. So I will wait for a few seconds if you will write something. Otherwise, I will stop now. So I don't see anything here. Let me see if I see anything on the computer. No, I don't see any comment. Okay, so then we will just end. Thank you very much for your attention, for your being present. If you have any question, you can still write it in the comments and I will answer later. And if you have any desires for any topics being discussed here on this Facebook page, Bhakti Yoga Online, please write. Maybe you can write in the comments or write to me personally, and then you will get also your personal topic for discussion. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna.